My guest today is a guy that I fell in love with. I believe it was 2011.
Yeah.
It was pretty romantic. It was a rooftop bar, Washington, D.C. MSNBC party. Rachel Maddow, I remember, was bartending. It was like it's like a time capsule.
Yeah, it's from another era.
From another era.
Sure.
My guest was a writer for Barack Obama, who was a black president. And by getting elected black president, it was somehow a betrayal of his wife, from what I understand in all the press she does. Again, these are not my words. I'm just literally reading things she says. And I'm like, why is she so mad that her husband was president? Anyhow, he's trying not to laugh about it because he's going to get in trouble. He wrote for Hillary, then he wrote for Obama. Then he started Pod Save America and Love It or Leave It and the Pod Save Network. And his name is Jon Lovett. And he's a good boy. And we're going to get to the bottom of it today. And thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Neal.
You've been on my list for a long time.
I'm glad I'm here.
And
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, I think did I text you? Whatever. Let's not get
into it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Hey, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
If I didn't respond to an invitation, I deeply
You're
regret
not
that.
a great texter.
I'm not a great texter. It's actually on my list of blocks. It's on my list of fucking blocks.
Including, you didn't even send me your blocks.
Well, that did say optional. It said optional to send the blocks. It said optional to send the blocks. It says optional to send the blocks.
It's black tie optional. You wear a black tie.
Okay. I wrote a list of blocks. Isn't that great? Isn't that what you want?
Yes. Text them to me, would you? Would you mind? Okay. Or write them down.
I did write them down. But
write them down and hand them to me because I don't know if you've ever hosted anything. You kind of need to know.
I'll just take it from here.
Somewhat.
Let me do it.
Somewhat what's going to happen.
All right. I'll have a bunch. You can choose from any of these lists.
Text it to me.
Okay.
While you're doing this, I'll tell the story of Jon was once in a relationship marriage, and there was a surprise birthday party for his boyfriend.
By him for me.
Oh, it was for you.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So it was a little murky what time we were supposed to be there from my point of view. From my point of view, it was a little murky what time we were supposed to be there. So I get there, let's say, at 8:15, at which point Jon and his husband, we'll call him Ronan, arrive.
We weren't married. Yeah, we were in a long-term relationship. Yeah.
Arrive, and I'm on the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. At which point I just hide behind a giant tree.
Yeah, and whenever I think of you, I do think of that. You failed, so your hiding was so funny because at first you didn't just hide behind a tree. At first you froze as if I was the T-Rex from Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Like my vision only worked with motion.
Keep absolutely still.
And then you jump back behind the tree, which I saw in full. Like I just saw the whole thing happen. And it was a delightful memory.
I remember you saying wasn't even a giveaway that there was a surprise party because it seemed like something I would do if I was just walking in your neighborhood and saw you.
Yeah, I didn't know if it could have been. It didn't occur to me surprise party. That would have maybe been the third thing. The first thing was you were doing a bit.
Right.
The second was you weren't in a mindset to engage with someone you knew and just didn't feel like having a conversation.
Completely in character for me.
Which were both what I thought of. Never occurred to me at the time because I was focused on those two options that there was going to be a surprise party for me.
Yeah, I'm glad that I didn't blow it. Anyway, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Surprise. So Lovett, how are things going for you?
So,
because I'll inform people. He came out here, did a sitcom for 10 episodes or something about life in the White House.
1600 pen.
A good idea, why not? You're right when you know, et cetera, et cetera. Didn't really work. You never looked back in terms of sitcoms or anything, from what I can tell. You
didn't see it, but I did look back for a while.
You did? Okay.
It was just something that didn't hit. It was such a quiet look back. It had such a little effect on the world that my look back didn't register for you.
Okay.
But no, I sold another couple of pilots, and then I ended up doing The Newsroom with Sorkin. So I moved over and did that. Did like a drama.
You love drama.
Love drama. And it was in that time I was figuring out what I was going to write next. I was failing to write something that we started doing the podcast.
Great. And that was pretty much out of the box popular.
Yeah. So we had taken out a TV show that was similar to the podcast, basically a television version of Pod Save America.
Yep.
No takers. And at the time, The Ringer asked Jon Favreau and Dan Pfeiffer to do a podcast. Tommy and I joined that in the run-up to the 2016 election. That became popular after Trump wins. We decided we want to focus on politics again full time. We'd all been doing our own thing. And we launched Pod Save America in January of 2017, and it just took off. And we were very fortunate. I highly recommend being in the right place at the right time, or the right place at the wrong time, as it were. Really, that's a great thing. You got to be in the right place at the right time. Oh, boy, the best.
Yep. And how do you like it?
So
stressful? More stressful than you would have thought? Too much business? What's it like? Because I'm always curious, how do you like running, having employees?
So Crooked Media, which is our company, is an independent media company, and we have a bunch of shows. Pod Save America remains our biggest show, our flagship show, but Jon and Tommy and Dan and I all do separate shows, and Dan writes a newsletter. And then we have a bunch of other hosts that are part of the network. And the challenge over the years has been, how do we focus on what we do best, which is not management or finance, which we have no experience in, but hosting, and building out a network that reflects our vision for what we're trying to do here, without getting bogged down in the parts that we're not good at. And that's hard, right? And so as you get bigger, we just rely on having really great people take that on. And it's hard to find really great people, but we've been lucky. And you just learn as you get bigger what you need to step out of so that you don't get sucked into meetings and decisions that you really don't bring anything to, other than the fact that you were here first. So that's always hard. And as you grow, you kind of find new stress points. But I should just say, because this is a show about things that have gone wrong, or that you're stressed
or that
problems. You feel problems.
Things, yes.
That my joke has been the country is in an absolute dire position. Authoritarian is on the rise. Yep. I've never been happier.
Is that true?
I really am that is just true.
I believe
I'm in an incredibly good place.
Great.
As a person.
And you're aware of it.
Yes. And look, you bring your flaws and baggage with you, even in the good times, of course.
Yep.
But I'm in a very good place that was hard to get to, and I feel proud of that. And so it's this weird tension between my life feeling like I've finally made a lot of progress, and then in what we're covering, what we're talking about, it feels very dire, because it is. Yeah.
I want to say that you guys have you're doing a Crooked Media convention called Crooked Con.
Yeah.
November 7th in Washington, D.C. So
That's right.
I wanted to promote that.
Thank you for doing that. Crooked Con.
And Crooked Con.
First one.
First one.
Yeah. Either first annual or one of a kind, depending on how it goes.
Maybe two unique. Okay. Well, do you feel like you did you work hard to get okay? Because you were we were both kind of like sad sacky. Both of our sort of roofs, our ceilings were sort of sagging.
Yeah, I think that's why
when we met.
I feel like that was like a find each other.
We
in
met
the
each
party.
other. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, oh, there's a sad boy. there's a guy who can find what's wrong in any situation.
Yeah. How'd you get out of it? Because I used DMT and ayahuasca.
F. Scott Fitzgerald. This is me so. I know, just even saying that.
Yeah.
Everyone heard it.
Hold
just
on, let me ball my fist up.
Yeah,
so I can
just
punch
get ready
in
to
the
bully
face.
me.
Yep.
Get ready to bully me. I think there's I have an energy. There's some people, I feel like we have a great dynamic, but I feel like part of our dynamic is you bully me in a fun and sweet way. There's a part of you that enjoys that, right?
But you're too successful now, so it's not, it feels like weird or something. Feels off.
Yeah. It worked better at the beginning,
for sure. It did work better at the beginning. Chappelle's show was more recent, and you were just a writer for stupid Obama.
So he wrote this essay called The Crack Up. It's actually a couple essays. And they're really interesting, and I recommend people read them, in part because he's writing about experiences that he didn't have words for because they didn't have depression or, all the terms that we use so commonly. They just didn't have it.
Yeah.
And he's clearly in the midst of some kind of deep depression and there's periods of mania maybe in there. He's obviously drinking a lot. But he describes a deep depression, and then he says some version, I'm paraphrasing it slightly, and then I got a little better, and I cracked like a plate when I heard the news. And I feel like that happened to me, that basically I was struggling for a long time with depression and anxiety and a little bit of just like, and this is so, I know, cliche at this point, but like unmanaged and unaddressed ADHD that was causing me to kind of fuck up a lot of stuff all the time.
Really, ADHD is a big one, because as someone who doesn't necessarily have it, I'm a bit like, oh yeah, but the people that have it, it's significant.
I think that like there's a lot of people who weren't meant for, like, whatever you want to call it, like ADHD, like, oh, is it overdiagnosed? Like, there's a lot of people who maybe wouldn't have had any kind of problem if they woke up every morning, made a chair, and then got some potatoes and put it in a bowl and called it a day. But in a world of constant communication, keeping up with a lot of complicated things, like a fast-moving kind of life, I think there's a lot of people who innately struggle with that. That is why we are finding it more. I'm one of those people, I think. But I really struggled, and I, especially as we went into the pandemic, I was managing it with a lot of like edibles or just like closing myself off to the world. And I would end each day feeling as though I had a list of things I hadn't done and a list of problems I hadn't solved. You take an edible, you step outside of yourself. That's like the magic of what weed can do for good and for ill. All of a sudden, you and your problems are just a couple feet further away than they used to be. But you do that every night, over and over and over again, and all of a sudden you're missing your life. And I feel like I did that for a while. Part of that was being in a relationship that wasn't working, and I am an ambitious, anxious, smart, talented person, as was my partner at the time. And ambitious, anxious, talented, smart people have an experience of pointing their intensity at something to fix it. Whether that's journalism or comedy or writing or whatever it is, you have this growing up. You learn. I just point my laser beam at something, it melts.
Yeah.
How cool is that? And you do that, and it leads to success or failure or whatever. But you learn that it works. It can work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work in love. You can't point your intensity at something until it fixes. Maybe there are problems you can address.
No.
Relationships take
it's an
work,
interesting idea. So
but you can't use your intensity to fix something, even if you want to fix it in a relationship. And all of that culminated in like kind of getting to a pretty dark place. And
was it, when you say dark place, was it frustration? Was it like all this effort and nothing? Was it?
I think it was more.
And we're worse off. We're treading water.
It was more. I think it was more. Nothing was so terrible. It wasn't about like low lows. It was just not really feeling invested in anything. Just feeling kind of disconnected.
In your whole life?
In my life, like just feeling outside of myself. Like I like feeling like I was just trying to get to the next day, losing a lot of what I think has driven me and helped me along the way, which is intensity and passion and excitement and like getting really focused on something. And I just had lost a lot of that. And I don't know, maybe it was because it got so bad, but all of a sudden I said, you know what? I got to talk to a therapist. And
BetterHelp.com.
I got to
promo code Neal.
That's right. And I have to cut back on these edibles. Like, it's really gotten out of hand. And I got a little better. And then I cracked like a plate when I heard the news. And I mean, without,
and obviously there's no direct news, but I'm saying it, or other than Trump getting elected. But what in your mind, what is it? Is it gradual and then all at once? What's the all
I think
at
it
once?
is. I think it is real. Like, I will just say my life looked one way when I was 39 and it looked different when I was 40. The relationship ended, and that was very hard, but ultimately necessary. And with nothing but love and like nothing but appreciation for the person I was with. But we both had to realize it had to end, and that was very hard because we were very connected, and there was a lot of good there. And part of it was just a mindset change about recommitting to work. Part of it was just cutting out edibles as a way of avoiding kind of being in my own
People
head.
don't talk about the deleterious effects of weed enough.
Again,
we're not
judging.
teetotal. I'm just like, I just know. I think everyone knows it's one of these things of like open secret of like, weed's kind of not the best thing for people long term.
It's really pernicious because if you drink every day, it destroys your life. You crash your car. You cheat. You ruin your marriage. You become a menace to yourself in some way or another. If you use weed too much, you eat an extra cupcake and you don't reply to an email, right? Like you can it can hide. The effects of it can really hide, but. In the same way, alcohol is great in moderation. Like every once in a long while now, I'll still take an edible just to like have a different experience. But I think I was using it to get out of myself too much. And all I had, it wasn't, and because it is also different than alcohol, it wasn't like stopping it was changing a habit. And once I chose to do that, I could choose to do it. It didn't like pull me back in the same way I think alcohol or other drugs can do. So there are ways in which it isn't as dangerous. But in any event, I like felt like I made a lot of changes in that year.
What year was this?
This was like, I was turning 40, so that was 2022.
Okay.
Then all of a sudden, I was single when I was 29, and then I was single when I was 40. I was never single in my 30s, and boy, that is a big period of time to forget how to be single. Yeah. Because you go out there, and you're
also the years 2009 or whatever the year, 2013 to 2023.
Right. Like I hadn't been on an app.
Yeah.
Right. And so all of a sudden you're going out there and you're like trying to do your old card tricks and you're like, oh, I'm not as dexterous with these. Is this your card? It's not. It used to be your card.
Okay. Let me try to get,
yeah. So that was hard, but it was all, I think, necessary. And I ended up meeting the person I was absolutely meant to be with. Just unequivocally, certainly the person.
Yep.
And that was really clarifying. And we had been friends. And I've told this in some fashion before, but this was
tell it better this time.
Yeah, I've worked on it. I've worked it. Great. Now it's ready for the big time.
Great. Let me sit back and enjoy this.
So I think you will find this interesting too. And like it was interesting just intellectually, but when I met the person that I am currently with, who I'm engaged to marry, I'm a gay person. Did we ever say that? I don't think we did. It's obvious.
I mean, it's the
my
gay
voice
is
so
silent.
Right.
The gay is silent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
There's something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no. It's unspoken.
It's in
but assumed. Yeah. Assumed with my mannerisms. But
although I will say I didn't assume when I met you. Because it could just be Jewish.
Well, somebody I worked with in Hillary's office said, I didn't know if you were gay or just arrogant.
We also would have accepted arrogant.
And it's like, yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
But
precocious.
Sure. You can't be,
back then.
No such thing as a precocious 40-year-old. But when I met the person that I am currently engaged to, they were a woman. I was a gay man. And so we were just buddies. And we worked together. And everyone's like, oh, that's so cute. Basically, Ari is their name. They had only really been in relationships with women. I only had dated men. And so we were just friends.
Yeah.
And we were friends for a long time.
You can say stuff you wouldn't say to somebody that you're trying to be in a relationship with.
Right, which wasn't even impossible. It wasn't even a thought. It wasn't even a thought. But they had begun their transition. And over the course of our friendship, they transitioned into someone that whether or not we would date is in the realm of possibility
but at least the right category.
Right. Just at least the Venn diagrams are starting to overlap. Yeah. And it was this strange experience where, look, sometimes when you meet somebody, there's a intimacy, but no attraction.
Yep.
And over time, the intimacy leads to a connection that becomes romantic. That happens. Other times, people just meet, they have an instant sexual chemistry or romantic attraction, and then over time, like intimacy follows.
Yeah.
But in most cases, they look the same the whole time. Yeah. It is really strange to have a friend and an intimate friendship, and then they slowly evolve into your type. Like that was a trip.
Yeah.
And it's like, are we just getting closer? Is this becoming something else?
Every time they go to the doctor's office, they become more. That almost never happens.
Strange, right?
Yes.
So it was very confusing, and it was confusing for them. Because
that must have been really interesting. Where you're like, wait, is this am I you're literally turning into a guy, and it's like the reverse Back to the Future.
Right? Yeah, sure. Wait, what?
But like you're getting an erection. I mean, if I can be crass, you're getting an erection.
I don't know.
Maybe this is wrong. Maybe it's wrong, but maybe it's right.
I don't know how we got to Back to the Future.
You know how we got there.
I don't.
Because Marty McFly's running out of time, and his hand is disappearing.
I see.
And you're running into time, and your erection's growing.
And you know that you've had smarter points before.
We all have. Almost everyone's had a better point than this.
So it was this. So that was very confusing, and especially because we worked together. It meant like the possibility of ever pursuing it, like the stakes were higher, right? Because you can't just like see what happens. You got to go like tell HR like, hey, it's my company. It's like you have to be. We took it really seriously.
They worked at Crooked?
Yeah, they still do.
Whoa.
Still do. And so we didn't pursue it for a long time. We just really were friends. And there were like rumors, and we really weren't. We we're going to be friends because, whatever is going on here, like you've only dated women, I've only dated guys. Like we're just meant to be friends. And a year or 2 years later, it just for me, like the feeling hadn't changed, and for them, and for me, like the pursuing it felt so risky because we'd have to tell people we were going to pursue this.
It's a lot of pressure,
right? And because they had only really had relationships with women in the past, there was this fear that we act on this because feels like there's an obstacle and it feels romantic and interesting. And then 3 months later, we've fucked up our friendship. Everybody at work is aware of this relationship. We have to figure out how to like be in the same room all the time. For what? So it's not worth it.
There's a very good quote I've heard attributed to Warren Beatty, which is, you can sleep with your leading lady. The problem is you can't stop sleeping with her. Which is like, yeah, because the problems are not on the ascent; it's on the descent when it stops working,
right.
And they start being hostile to each other in work environments.
And you can really care about each other, and you can go into something with eyes open and say, no matter what happens, and you can mean it and want to mean it, but life is life, and life is hard, and people are people. But after several years of not pursuing it, we both went our separate ways. Like I had other relationships. It just felt really powerful. And
So you flirted with the idea and said, or you...
We talked about it. We literally talked about it. We're like, no, we shouldn't do this. Like, let's just not open this. It feels unlikely. It feels like we're acting on that the obstacle has made it more interesting than it actually will be.
Yeah.
Like, let's stop not kidding ourselves. You're going to marry a woman. I'm going to marry a cisgender guy, and we're just going to be friends. And let's stop pretending otherwise.
We're going to go old fashioned.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, relatively old.
70s. Yeah. We're going to Will and Grace it. We're not going to change. We're going to go back to the NBC classic.
Yeah. Must see TV.
It's all new. Must see TV Thursday.
Yeah. Must see TV. We're not streaming here.
No,
we're not streaming. Thursday night, 9 o'clock. So we go our separate ways, but the feeling was so strong. And so after I was now single again after another relationship ended that didn't work, if I'm being honest, in part because I think there was this unanswered question with Ari, which is their name. And we talked about it, and I said some version of, I've never really worried about this because our friendship and connection was so strong that I felt like if it could happen, it would, and if it couldn't, it wouldn't, and I'm okay with that. But if you think right now there's a chance it could work, even if just a chance, and you can say no, I think we should take that chance. And they said they felt like there was a chance that it could work. And so we tried, and it was instantly and obviously correct. And we have been inseparable ever since. And they're the love of my life. And I feel very fortunate about it. But I feel like I got this romantic star-crossed love
Yeah.
that made me a happier and better person. Full stop.
Yeah. But the plate had broken prior to that?
Yeah. I think that probably part of what made it possible is a lot of the ways I had approached previous relationships, which were about anxiety and being afraid of being alone and wanting to prove myself.
What was your fear of being alone? Because I don't have much of one, and I'm wondering what it's like. Would you prefer? You like having people around? I'm from a big family, so I'm still excited when I get home and no one's there.
I love a night of just being by myself, eating food on the couch, watching TV till of whatever I want. Sure. But for the most part, like, I love people. I love being around people. I get antsy and sad if I have too many nights alone in a row. And I like being in a couple. I do.
After
I like
a full day at work, you're with people, you're hosting,
Yes. In the same way that like people say they like remote work, but then you look at it and everyone's really fucking depressed. Yeah, it's easier to do nothing and be by yourself at home.
Yeah.
But it's not better for you. And so like, for example, like on Friday, I'm usually pretty tired, but like, man, do I know it's good for me to kind of like tie myself to the ship and on like Tuesday, like invite 2 or 3 friends over for Friday night and say, I'm going to cook dinner. Because then even though I'm tired, even though I'd rather veg out and just do nothing, it is better for me and like better for life to know that like, you know what, I'm going to get home. I'm not going to take even a break. I'm going to start making dinner. People are going to come over. We're going to have a conversation. We're going to sit around the table. I'm going to bring food out. We're going to talk for 3 hours at like 10 o'clock. They're going to be like, oh, all right. And then they're going to leave.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to do the dishes. Then I'm going to get into my room. And then I'll be like, oh, I'm exhausted. But it feels good.
Yeah.
It's good to force yourself to do that. So that's how I am. Like, I know it is better for me almost universally to like be with my friends, to be with people. And I like being in a couple. I do think that I was really insecure about how I looked. I was really insecure about dating. I never felt comfortable when I was growing up because I was gay, but I also never felt fully like part of gay world, right? Just the classic, we're going out, gay world. Like,
this is one of your blocks, and I'm extremely interested in it because can I tell you what it looked like from the outside, or my questions from the outside before you get started with your absolute direct first person experience. I need to meddle.
Get in here.
You don't present especially gay, right? Is that intentional? Or that's because part of me is like, I don't know, just you don't seem, but at the same time, you seem like yourself.
That is the question. I think a lot of gay people struggle. Everyone struggles with it. You know, like the RuPaul line, like we're all born naked and the rest is drag. Like, am I less flamboyant because I am self-hating? Is it my natural instinct? Was it because I was trained to not be my true self? Why is it that when I'm having a serious conversation, I sound more like this? But if I'm getting silly, the lilt gets a little bit stronger. What does that say? Is that natural? What is the cause of that? But then the other part of it that's like been like kind of like making me kind of question things is
you just did a shiver that was pretty impressive. Maybe the best shiver I've seen certainly on this podcast. Go ahead.
Great for the YouTube. Is okay. Well, I ended up with a trans person. Like, I was never straight. I'm not straight, right? But like, I always assumed when I was a kid, when you were a kid, there weren't so many letters, you know?
Yeah.
There just weren't so many letters.
Yeah.
Like, if you weren't straight, you were gay. When I was a kid, being bi was a joke, right? That if a guy said he was bi, it's because he's secretly gay, and if a woman says she's bi, it's because she's secretly straight. Whatever, it was like a joke. I didn't know about the T, the Q. I was just hearing about the Q. The Q was just coming out, and so I was just gay.
Are you writing for Chappelle now? What's happening? Did we switch places?
Yeah, this is
no. Go on.
The alphabet people.
All I was gonna say is like, I think probably part of why I never felt totally at home in like capital G gay culture is like maybe I didn't totally fit into that definition, right? I because of my generation, like I don't feel comfortable calling myself queer. It just feels wrong. Like it feels, I don't know, it just never felt right to me. But probably like just the way people use it, it more accurately describes me as a person. And that's it doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
that's just the reality of it, which is why I think it's like now I look back and it's like, well, yeah, I was like never totally at ease in this world because it's not totally my world.
And from the outside in, like you're like, I am queer, but to me it sounds like Dungeons and Dragons language. Like, I don't know, what
Right.
are you queer? I don't know.
It also just doesn't matter.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
It also just doesn't matter. Yeah. But also, like, I'm also a weird guy. Like, it's like
Well,
I'll struggle at any party. There's no party where
Yeah.
I'm not going to be at the outside of it being like, how do people talk to each other? What
Yeah.
are they talking about?
Yeah. And then that's what I think a lot of modern life is. Like, life's hard, and then we try to ascribe the reason why it's hard. And it's like, no, it's hard because it's hard. It's not hard because you're a fish out of water, or you're black, or you're gay, or what. It's just like, that's part of it.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's hard independent of that.
Yeah. And I think we intellectualize our feelings a lot, and we use our brains to tell stories, to put kind of meaning and narrative to why we do what we do, or why we feel the way we feel. It's like, you wake up in a bad mood, it's because it's raining. You wake up in a good mood because it's sunny, but it has nothing to do with that. You're looking outside and ascribing a cause to a feeling that was in your body when you woke up that morning.
Yeah. It's just chemical.
Yeah.
Most likely. Or again, who knows? But we know that there are just like innate, you're going to be in a good mood, bad mood, too much sleep, REM. If you have a fitness watch, then you can get into types of sleep. I'm a big REM guy.
Great. People wear these Apple Watches to the movies.
Yep.
And it's like, hey, that's a screen, you fucking jerks. That's a bright little screen on your... I don't care that you're keeping track of your steps. Turn that thing off.
I'm young. What's a movie? What is that? Old man, please tell me what a movie is. Okay, I want to ask one more question about, did you find being gay and you were not in especially hetero spaces, right? You've always been in like, you're a Democratic up. So
Sure.
you're pretty, it's pretty comfortable. Was it ever excruciating? Was it ever like, I wish this wasn't the case? Or was it just like, this is what it is and it's awesome, whatever. Tons of benefits.
So I went to Williams College, which is a sports college in rural Massachusetts. Great decision for a closeted Jewish gay kid to make from Long Island. Great decision.
Why did you make that decision?
It's a great school. They had a great math. Like, there were reasonable reasons to do it.
Okay.
I joke about it now. But like, it was a strange place for me to choose. I'm glad I did. I made great friends. I had a great time there. It's a strange choice. But I remember when I got there, I was meeting people for the first time that like grew up around like money and who went to elite private schools and had like been on private jets and had been to Europe and all these things. And like, I had a very privileged upbringing, but like my family had a box factory and they did well, but we had a middle class energy. And that was their childhood. That was my childhood. And I remember learning that like, oh, there's like a breeziness to the way these people interact with each other, a kind of perfect balance between gratitude and belonging, like never acting as if the world totally is theirs for the taking, but never acting as though they should be bashful about taking it. There's a difference. There's a difference. And it's an ease that I had to learn to pretend to have. And I learned from it that like, oh, this is a language of success that we have everywhere, that like, that is an energy people who successfully do job interviews bring to that interview, right? Not too much gratitude, not too much arrogance, right? Like, it's just, it's an energy that you need to carry. That feeling of being on the outside of that is similar to like a feeling of being on the outside of a certain kind of ease that straight men have with each other, that only really exists when straight men are alone and comfortable, and gay guys can gain access to it when they can hang. But then if they're like that like, if you have a feminine energy in that space, you are coded differently. And that's not anyone's fault. It's not even bad, right? Gay guys together have a language that a straight guy would have to kind of delicately balance. And women, when like I remember I worked for Hillary Clinton, that was an office led by women, and men were sometimes a little bit on the outside of it and had to learn how to navigate it, right? Like that's true of any space.
Everyone's code switching all the time. This idea of the last 5 years where it's like, only we have to code switch. It's like, no, everyone is code switching from interaction to interaction.
Like I do Pilates. There are straight guys that show up at Pilates and like they're welcome, but they gotta be on their best behavior.
Yeah, I've been that guy.
That's a feminine space. And whenever I go to Pilates, I like kind of really throw on the gay. You gotta just be like you're doing like just my you just because
you mince.
I mince a bit.
Yep,
I mince.
Sure.
I'm not ashamed to admit it.
No,
I turn it up.
Yeah,
I turn it up.
There's a gauge. I don't want to say where it is. But there's a gauge.
Oh, there's a gauge. And it's where you think it is.
Yep. And you twist it and...
Boy.
What? Let's leave it. Love it.
Welcome to Love It or Leave It. But like, I like, that to me is what, for me, like a lot of like the experience of being gay can be outside of like relationships, like in work and in life. It's like, oh, like navigating when you're kind of, and by the way, same on the other side, like when you're like one of the girls and when you're one of the guys. And the great part about it, the best part about being gay outside of, not even women is
you kind of fucked that up, but go ahead. You find a way to ruin it. That's your thing.
That's right. But I think what you said was wrong. But
I know. Well, no. What's funny is you've never really been this kind of person. You've never been that into condemnation. I want to talk about that. This whole
Let's talk about
section of the last. So you were saying that you've been code switching. I want to finish this thought, which is you've been code switching. It's fine. It's understandable. It was never a albatross on your life.
All I was going to say is I've always felt, and similar to the way I think you sometimes feel, which is just like always, and it's a comedian's energy too, which is sort of like you're kind of on the outside a little bit and you're like, are these people not thinking about how they're talking? Are they just talking? That's amazing. They're just in there talking.
Yeah.
They're not saying something and thinking about how it's playing. They're just talking.
Yep.
And I feel like I did that when I was in the closet, and I did that when I was trying to fit it in school, and I did that when I was with gay people, I did that with women, I did that with straight people. I've always done that, and it's just been part of what I've navigated. And then you think, well, that's not because of that's because of my fucked up brain.
Yeah, I know. And we've ascribed, so we'll use that as a way into the last 15 years of American life, right? Or 17. Since 2008.
Let's elect Barack Obama.
There's been a premium put on victimization, and meaning it's kind of a victimization Olympics. We're code switching. You think you have to code switch. We have to code switch. There's all this like sort of competitive. I'm going to stick with victimization despite your facial expressions.
I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about what you're saying.
Yeah, I kind of believe that, right? Some of it was we need more civil rights. Name 10 groups they wanted more civil rights and deserve more civil rights protection under the law. Some of it was just for advantage, for social advantage, for professional advantage, interpersonally. Some of the people were grifting, right? My question and I asked Ezra Klein this, do you think that my explanation of the case for why Democrats lost in 2024 was because social media made it so that the aggrieved groups basically rose to the top of the hierarchy of urgency or issues, really. Like, what should the issues be, right? And Democratic politicians were unable or afraid to say that's one of the issues, but it can't be our main issue.
So
can I show you a photo that I posted this the day after the election at the top of Democrats.org. Okay.
Yeah.
So 17 black people and a white guy with dreads.
Yeah. So, right. And by the way, like, okay. So.
And I don't think like it's you. I don't think it's anyone in particular. I just think it was the momentum of social media and people being afraid of being called a bigot in a public square.
So I think there's like, I think a lot of things happen at the same time. That
Of
I know,
course.
but like, so there's social media, there's policy, there's what elected Democrats say, there's what activists say, there's what normal people say. Like, there's just a lot of people that are kind of having different experiences of this dynamic.
Yep.
So one big thing that I do think happened because of social media is millennials are the first social media generation. We embrace it, and we're trying to figure out what it means to live online. And what did millennials decide was the way you live online? You have to put on a perfect show.
Mm-hmm.
And so you never show people your sweat. You never show people that you're fucked up. You never show people that you're upset. You post a perfect picture of something you made. You post a perfect trip. Your perfect
Unless
friend.
you're perfectly upset.
Unless you're perfectly upset. But that
Which
even
is a whole other,
that came later. Like the forget like people being influenced. I'm just saying people.
Yeah.
We all trained ourselves to kind of put on a show of perfection, and we brought that kind of performance into our professional lives, right? It's hustle culture.
Hustle is putting it all on the line.
It's like the wing. It's a set of like expectations around how you show up as a person, and you save your flaws and the ways in which you feel hurt, the ways in which you've been wronged, that you keep at home, and you show up and you out hustle somebody else no matter what's coming your way. And Gen Z comes up and they see that, and like, that is cringe, first of all. It's embarrassing. It's not real. And you're ignoring all of this shit. And you're ignoring all the ways in which things are unfair. You're ignoring all the challenges we face. You're ignoring the way in which our generation was punished by having to grow up online. And so there is a reaction to that. And that reaction is to show your flaws and to talk about how hard it is. And the ways in which, you are a victim of circumstance, racism, homophobia, misogyny, whatever. An asshole of a boss, whatever.
Bigotry in general.
Right. I agree that like some of our politics has been a backlash to that. But what's interesting is while that backlash has played out in politics, you kind of have seen in the last couple of years the ways in which those two things have come a little bit more together. And Gen Z's growing up a little bit and realizing that sometimes you do need some grit and to not worry about so much about what's broken. And you see millennials admitting like, maybe I have ADHD, right? Like, you see a little bit of like those two things coming together. I think that's like a really good thing. But that doesn't change the fact that there was a big political backlash to Democrats embracing, activist groups that claimed the way you appeal to Hispanics is by saying you will decriminalize the border, or the way you appeal to Black people is by saying embracing abolish the police, and that was a bit of a moment of mania where a lot of elected Democrats, so unmoored by Trump winning, so unmoored the first time, so unmoored about what people think and how to appeal to people, that they went along with that. You see people raising their hands during debates. You see Kamala talking about
taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners and illegal aliens.
But that was years ago.
Yeah.
Democrats realized that was fucking stupid, that they went too far, and that those groups didn't speak for the people they claimed to speak for, right? Because it was a lot of Hispanic people that moved towards Trump. It was Black voters who were saying over and over again that they actually didn't want to abolish the police, that they thought good policing made their neighborhoods feel safer, right? That's just the reality. But Democrats learned that. Kamala Harris was punished with an ad from when she embraced that point of view.
Kamala's for they, them. President Trump is for you.
But Democrats had learned that they had gone too far and tried to correct. It just didn't work. There wasn't enough time. Maybe she wasn't the best communicator on that.
Do you believe that transgender Americans should have access to gender-affirming care in this country?
I believe we should follow the law.
Joe Biden left the bully pulpit open for years.
He cares about holding on to power. I care about you.
But the truth is that we paid for lessons we had learned is, I think, part of why
I'm with you in terms of timeline explanation.
And by the way, one part of all of this that part of another reason I'm a little bit I kind of have this reaction to what you're saying is there was a whole media ecosystem, a whole political apparatus designed to take the most annoying college professors, the most fringy Democratic statements, the dumbest thing a Democrat ever said, and make that the news. Yeah. And that's still true.
I agree.
And so we do pay for that, right? There was just the Third Way as a think tank. They just came out with a list of words Democrats should stop saying, right? Fine. Don't say birthing person. I'm engaged to a trans person.
Yeah.
Don't say, birthing person. You can say that there are pregnant women while also acknowledging that there are trans people who don't identify women who get pregnant, and that could be a pregnant person. But that doesn't mean you have to stop saying pregnant women. That's ridiculous. Like they're just, we can use common sense.
And you're one of the people who birthing person would be the correct word, and even you're like, don't do me any favors, because that's the thing that I feel like there was a lack of people going like, don't make us the main thing, because it is unusual, and it's going to be easy to paint the whole party with this brush.
And like there are all kinds of other words on that list, intersectionality, heuristic, whatever. But here's the thing. Mainstream Democrats don't say that stuff. They don't. They really
agree,
don't.
But they also haven't been allowed to say this is silly.
So
this type of language is silly.
And this gets at, to me, this is why, like, this is the problem.
Yes.
This is the problem. The problem is not that there are activists saying things that mainstream Democrats don't say. Look at Donald Trump. Donald Trump puts RFK Jr. in his cabinet, a pro-life, a pro-choice Kennedy. Imagine if Kamala Harris in the campaign said, you know what I'm thinking about making my Secretary of Health and Human Services? Mike Pence. There'd be an uproar, an intense uproar about how wrong that is. It would be, what are you talking about? No. She would never be in a position to do something like that. Why? Well, I don't think she should make Mike Pence Secretary of Health and Human Services, but...
How about Liz Cheney? Go on.
But like, Donald Trump has space to operate because his base trusts him, because his authentic motivations around immigration, around like the border, and a bunch of issues where people think, look, I don't know what he thinks about all this other stuff, but I know he really cares about this thing. That is a signal to me about his beliefs. I trust him. And that gives him the space to operate. It gives him the space to be heterodox. It gives him the space to do politics. There are some Democrats who've been able to do that over the years. Barack Obama could do that. Bill Clinton could do that. Bernie Sanders could do that. AOC could do that. Mamdani can do that. They build a real connection to people where people understand who they are. People say who they are, but what motivates them in a deep level about politics, why they're in this. And that means they are someone that people trust to push back on their own side, to like Mamdani talked about how there's a big fight about abundance, the details of which are very, very boring. But he made a point about how we do need more market rate housing. And actually, those abundance guys make a bunch of good points. Nobody's outraged that he's abandoning the movement because people know what he stands for. Like Bernie has been able to do that. Democrats, current Democratic leadership, like we talk a lot about politically homeless Republicans that are anti-Trump, but like the current leaders of the Democratic Party, they have no passionate constituency. There's no one out there who like
Schumer,
people may not
Schumer
dislike
heads.
Chuck Schumer or dislike Hakeem Jeffries, but they don't have an incredibly enthusiastic base of support. And that means they have to be a little bit more afraid to push back on the base, to either push to the left or push to the right, whatever it may be. And to me, like I look at that and I say, how can Democrats regain trust with people so that when they disagree, people don't take it as just political machinations, but actually as an honest person sharing what they genuinely think about the world that you may not agree with all the time. And we're in this vicious circle where Democrats, feeling like they're disconnected from people, do all this poll testing and message testing, and then they get the perfect sentence, and the perfect sentence is inevitably something like, Donald Trump shouldn't be putting National Guard on our streets. He should be protecting your Medicare. And that polls, I'm sure, through the roof. But it's not a way people would
build
talk.
Back better.
Right.
Yep.
And so we're in that vicious circle. And the question is how you get out of it. And you do it by having leaders people genuinely trust, believe in, who are building that on specific issues, which gives them the space to operate outside of them.
I also think it's leaders or anyone being okay with a difference of opinion.
Yeah.
Just going like Gavin Newsom is now basically, here's what I think. If you don't like it, I'll get you on the next one. But like, I hopefully we agree. Hopefully you agree with me more. Hopefully you'll still vote for me. But this is my seemingly genuine belief. And I feel like I was saying earlier, I think there was such a fear, largely from my point of view, based on social media, that once you get branded as something, you can't you just are that if you're not sufficiently pro-trans, if you're not sufficiently anti-ICE or whatever, all the things. And I think it's so frustrating that they're releasing that list now in 2025, where it's like, you didn't know that intersectionality was like nauseating to 80% of the voters?
Well, but like,
as a term?
No, of course. But like, the thing is, again, it's like, that's not a term Democrats are really using. And by the way, like, why do those terms not work? There's nothing inherent in the words. It's because the people using them don't have enough reach, base of support, people that agree with them. People like, cringe is just, what is cringe? It is what cringy people say that makes other people realize they shouldn't say it, right?
Yep.
Like, that happens with slang all the time, right? Slang comes out of basically black people or you know, drag queens people. Or gay people. Yeah. And it's fun. Then all of a sudden it's on a, you know, Brat Summer post, and then it's cringe. Why?
Literally, when that Brad thing happened, I was like, oh, they're done. They're done. She can't win. I literally said it before. I was like, she might win. Just never bring up being a woman. Never do any of this goofy cultural shit. And then.
But like, we just, it's not the words. It's not the words. It's the disconnect between the people using them and the majority of the country we're trying to reach, and the lack of leaders that have an ability to kind of live in both worlds. Like the transit, like Gavin Newsom took a ton of shit for saying what he said about trans athletes.
You say no men in female sports. Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that.
Pete Buttigieg had his time in the barrel. A lot of Democrats are going to have their time in the barrel.
These decisions should be in the hands of sports leagues and school boards and not politicians.
Why? Like, what do Democrats think should be the policy at high-level competitive sports? I really have no idea. Yeah. Biden tried to do a kind of bridge the divide policy that was against blanket bans, but acknowledged that there are people with concerns. That was said to be wrong by a lot of people, that he was sort of conceding to the right. Like, I've talked about this with people that are involved in this fight, and I always say the same thing, which is some version of, I want teenagers that are trans to feel safe to tell people and to get the help they need so that they can live as themselves. I want trans adults to not be worried about getting fired, to be able to access the care that they need. I want broad trans acceptance. I want trans people to feel safe in this country, to be able to go to the bathroom at the airport. I want, like, as a culture for America, to realize that trans people shouldn't just be tolerated, but actually show us something beautiful about humanity and like what we don't understand about being a man or being a woman, being feminine, being masculine. Like, it can open our horizons and show us the ways in which even cisgender straight people are locked in the prison from the inside, right? Like, there's beautiful. I have
I'm like, I hear this and I go, come on, man.
I don't give a fuck about swimmers at the highest level. I don't give a fuck about that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But even the flowery language you just used is like, I'm at the airport. I have to fucking get to my flight. I don't want to have to worry about whatever you were just saying of like revealing a human
that's
spirit.
Not even, I'm not talking about that's just okay. That's not about the fucking airport bathroom. I'm just, people need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about having a romantic experience at the airport bathroom. I'm saying that in life, once you get past the bigotry and the confusion and the lack of acceptance and just the uncertainty and the needing to learn about it, what you find is that actually, like, non-binary people, trans people, they show us that, like, you know, there's a lot of assumptions in our culture about what it means to be a man and what it means to be a woman, and that questioning that is good. And maybe it's hard, right? Because I think there's a lot of specifically men who have allowed what it means to be a man and to be strong to narrow and narrow and narrow what they are allowed to do. You see, like, Jesse Waters on Fox News. He's like, men don't have soup. Men don't use straws. Men don't dance.
Men don't wish men happy birthdays.
What kind of strength is that?
I got to watch this clip. I can't wait to see it.
Strength shouldn't be that you're restricted, right? But all that's a way of saying, like, we don't get to have any kind of debate about that because we're stuck on this issue, which is, should trans people serve in the military? People support that. Should trans people be able to live as themselves? People support that. We get stuck on the 30-70 issue of high-level NCAA sports. I don't give a fuck about that.
Yeah.
And I get that there are activists who are like, no, if you give on that, they're just going to come for the next issue. But part of why Democrats get shit for being honest about not caring about that and recognizing concerns people have is they're not trusted as fighters on anything. So when they give on that, they think they'll give on everything.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Guys, you know, October 10th was World Mental Health Day, and this year we're saying thank you to therapists. I date one, so I'm thanking her every single day. BetterHelp therapists have helped over 5 million people worldwide on their mental health journeys. That's millions of stories, millions of journeys, and behind every one is a therapist who showed up, listened, and helped someone take a step forward in their life. I had a therapist cry one time listening to me. That felt like a breakthrough somehow. It made me have maybe more empathy with myself. Also, it felt like I knew it was sad. So that's maybe not the point of going to therapy, but it actually did give me some empathy for myself. A therapist can help you in a lot of different ways. One of them is being a mirror and making you see your life objectively a little bit, for better or worse. You know what I mean? Like some of it may be like, oh, I didn't want to think that about myself, but it's helpful. Or some of it's like, oh, okay, that's good information. BetterHelp has quality therapists. They have therapists that work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the United States. This World Mental Health Day, we're celebrating the therapists who've helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help you start that journey. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/NEAL. That's betterhelp.com/NEAL. 10% off first month. Pretty good. You can save some real money. Everybody needs a therapist. Okay, bye. Guys, fall is here. Crisp air, football, maybe a bonfire or two. But if you're like most guys, you're still putting in hard work. And yeah, that means sweat. Don't let body odor sideline you. Mando deodorant plus sweat control is for real working guys. It's formulated to stop odor before it starts and doesn't mask odor with overwhelming fragrance. So you can tackle anything from the job site to tailgating with total confidence. Don't mask it, Mando it. Look, I can act like I'm a hard-working guy. I'm out here raking, I'm digging trenches. I'm not. I'm writing jokes and then I'm walking around and telling them. And maybe look, I don't know why I sweat. I know I'm putting in, I also exercise, I should say. Let me be clear. So when you sweat, I sweat. I'm literally getting it how I live right now, guys. I don't know. I don't want to show you too much, but that's used deodorant. Right now I'm on the bourbon leather, and I like that. Let me hold it up in the frame. Bourbon leather. A lot of celebrities won't hold the product. If they're endorsing a phone, they won't. It'll be like he'll endorse it, but he won't hold it. I always bring you behind the scenes, guys, and tell you what's happening behind the scenes. Mando Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice. I like the wipes. They got a mini body wash. They got deodorant wipes, which I like. I just said it already. And free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. Use code NEAL at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. Shop Mando, shopmando.com. Use code NEAL. Mando's got you covered with deodorant plus sweat control. Say goodbye to sweat stains and say hello to long-lasting freshness. Mention us if they ask you where you heard about it. Say, oh, do you know Neal? Neal told me. Bye. My point of view, if I may, is, as you mentioned earlier, about the rollout of these issues.
Yeah.
Right? The civil rights in the 60s, the civil rights movement, the most effective social movement in world history, I've heard it referred to as, which I think is true, was really well managed, it's almost written, thought out, planned. I think the problem now is the rollout with all of the alphabet issues. Is this assumption that there's nothing unusual about it. When you just sat here and told me when we were younger, it didn't really exist. And I think a lot of times they pretend it did, and that I'm the bigot for kind of being like, wait, what? Which
Bill
I think
Burr
is
has that great. Bill Burr has that awesome bit about loving Bruce Jenner as a kid and not being able to say Bruce Jenner anymore, not even able to get to say, not getting to say the words Bruce Jenner.
Yeah,
you have to only say Caitlyn Jenner. But I never got a chance to say goodbye to Bruce Jenner. It's a version of that. It's great. It's
Kevin Nealon has my favorite joke, which is I used to golf with Bruce before he died. And he was friends with Bruce. So which is I can't say anything because what he's saying is true. So what I'm saying is it's this thing of this matter of fact, they're rolling out the metric system. We're still on feet and inches, and you're going, you're ignorant and a bigot for not going to metric quickly. It's like a better or another example is I still call my sister by Mary Brennan. I don't call her Mary Calkins. I don't call her, it's Mary Brennan. I don't know. It's Bruce Jenner, whatever you want to say.
So there's a huge divide between people that have view activism as something that takes place online and people who view it as something that takes place in the world. And I've just over years of doing Crooked Media and Pod Save America and these shows, you just learn that when you talk to organizers on whatever issue that are on the ground, they understand what you're saying. They're much more conciliatory because they talk to people and they view their mission as building a bigger tent and persuading people and helping people understand and getting people involved and getting people to care. You see that, by the way, with Sarah McBride, who's actually taking shit as a trans person for what she has said about LGBT issues.
She's not sufficiently trans enough as a trans person.
That she's in some way conciliatory or that she's given in some way. And that divide is just, there's something that happens to people when they live online. It really pickles your brain and you're in a closed loop with a bunch of people who agree with you, and it radicalizes people in all kinds of directions. And that's really unhealthy. And so you do end up with people that are kind of doing language policing and
politicians are afraid of them.
And you talked about this in your special about
the problem with being liberal is there's no amount of liberal that's ever liberal enough. Like if there's a bunch of Republicans standing around and someone comes up and goes, "Hey, I'm a Republican," they go like, "Come on in." If there's a bunch of liberals standing around and a liberal comes up and goes, "Hey, I'm liberal," they're like, "We'll see."
And that is absolutely true. And I'll just say it's a huge fucking problem.
Yeah.
And I feel very proud of what we've built over the last 8 or 9 years, and I'm proud of the longevity, right? Because things come and go, but we've stuck around. And as we've done it, we've sort of seen when we first started Crooked and Pod Save America, we really defined ourselves against the way the mainstream media was letting people down. Here we are 8 years later, it's like a shell of itself, right? It's basically gone. And now what are we trying to do? And what we've been talking about how to think about the mission as an independent progressive media company is we need to help people understand that the answer to what Trump is doing is as big and diverse and welcoming pro-democracy tent as humanly possible. And to remember at all times that Trump wants, the Republicans want, a left that is angry, divided, embittered, sour, mean, unwelcoming. That's what they want us to be. They want us to be the worst versions of ourselves. Trump is great at turning people into the worst versions of themselves, his supporters and his opponents alike. We have to fight that. And we have to be a fun, raucous party that people want to attend if we're going to be a movement people want to join. And that means being honest about the ways in which being liberal scolds, which again is a subset of people, is not just unhelpful, it is extremely harmful. And to act like that wasn't a part of what led us here is totally wrong. It absolutely is. And we got to figure out how to fix that brand. That is up to leaders of the party and what they stand for and their policies. But that's also about us as members of this movement to be people that others might want to join, even if they were wrong, even if they voted for Trump, even if they didn't follow politics before, even if they don't have the right words on all these issues, that whatever you feel, come on in, the water's fine, you're welcome.
Well, that's why you're my favorite pod saver.
All of us,
look,
all the guys.
the cute one. We could do this. We don't have time.
It's a shame. That's, by the way, that's our collective view of what we have to do.
Okay,
we have different points of view, but that's what we are building.
I don't listen to all of it and whatever. Who's got the time? But I'd also like to say you're fucking very funny. And
thank you for saying that.
Neither one of us have said we've sort of grazed past it. You're very funny. That's all I want to say. Love It or Leave It is funnier and it's funnier than this, and it's also, it's your care. It's hard to get your care at someone's personality into a kind of a game show format, but you did it.
You said
pretty effortlessly.
You said something to me right when we started it about the show that has stuck with me from the beginning.
Good, because I remember saying it.
Because you said what you're doing is right for this moment because, like Trump, you're a bully that you root for, and being a bully you root for has stuck with me from the beginning. And by the way, this is not my observation, but there's a difference between charm and charisma. And charm is about wanting people to like you, but charisma is charm is trying to get people to come to you. Charisma is people come to you on their own.
You said it wrong twice.
Yep. Fix it for me.
The definition of charisma is not, do I like that person? It's, does that person like me?
Yeah.
And that's what it is. But having said that, you have like, I have the same thing, which is like sort of a spiky charisma or charm.
I think that you hang back and let people come to you, and there's like a confidence to you, which feels more like charisma. I have more of a charm energy. I'm like trying to get people to like me.
That's fair.
And I feel like that's a difference. And so anyway, I've always appreciated you make your praise more valuable because you are less solicitous as a person.
Yeah. I also just think when you were like, what a week. I don't know what week I did it, but just the minute you said what a week.
What a week.
It was like 2016
or
17. And it was like, as a guy who's from TV, and I'm like, that's just a perfect distillation of like an energy. I didn't even remember saying the bully thing, but yeah, I don't even know if you're a stickler is what I mean. You have a standard. Where just like Trump, you have a standard. But what I was going to say is, do you feel like a part of the party leadership kind of, or the communications arm of the Democratic Party? Do you feel like, I don't want to say that because, you know what I'm saying? Like,
so here's, I hear what you're saying. I would say all of us have kind of two instincts in what our role is, especially when it comes to being hard on Democrats, which is we want to be productive, and we want to find the right balance between like it's not between like hope and cynicism. It's between like kind of where is pessimism correct? Where is agency where we can actually move things around? Like what is the most productive way to be critical of your own side? And like, there have been times where like we have heard from like the Democratic Party leadership that like they're pissed because we're like fucking annoying as hell and giving them a hard time, and we don't really get it because we're outside. But then at the same time, we're constantly hearing that we're shills for the Democratic Party, and the truth is like neither is right. Like we just don't think about it that way. I do like think one part of building that big movement is you have to be generous with your allies, even when they're cringe, even when they're annoying. You have to be generous with them. And by the way, you have to recognize that sometimes is Chuck Schumer saying the right things? Is Hakeem Jeffries saying the right things? Of course not. Not all the time. Not often. Is that our problem? Right? Is the problem that Hakeem Jeffries isn't saying everything right? Like, I don't know, maybe, right? But they're not in charge. Who is? Right? Republicans are in charge. How do we get power back? Well, it's about finding the right candidates at the local level. It's broadly talking about our collective message going into the midterms, right? It's understanding where criticism is valuable, where it's not, where what is annoying is important, where it's not, right? Like it's that to me, I think is what we try to figure out and help people figure out, especially when I think a lot of people feel like Democratic leaders are letting them down, but also sometimes we're looking for Democratic leaders to solve a problem that even they can't solve. And our frustration is not necessarily with them or with their inaction. It was the fact that they are not in power, and the people who are don't care. The people with power aren't listening, and the people who are listening don't have power. And that is a very frustrating thing. And channeling that frustration productively is, I think, part of what we're trying to do.
I worry when you say that you want to be generous with your allies.
Yeah.
Because I think that sounds like you're going like, we're going to be a little dishonest. You get it.
You know,
because I don't think it's going to fly for much longer.
Well, I'm thinking about what you're saying. Like, I'm thinking about it. And
like, even Tim Pool was like this, or some of the people on the right are like, I don't like this Epstein stuff. Like, I don't like it. Like, someone's going to probably call me, but I don't know if they've said that. But like, to the point where I'm saying to you guys, or just as like, I think it's a little old fashioned. What you're saying, it's not smoke-filled room old fashioned, but it's a bit like, is he perfect? Nah, but he's ours. It's a bit overly forgiving.
I would say that
I don't think it's an easy position.
No, well, we're about to have a debate about whether or not, let's get specific about it. So the government could shut down if there's not a funding bill. I may get the details a little bit wrong, but Democrats have to decide in the Senate whether or not they're going to go along with the funding bill or fight it, right? Chris Murphy's out there saying, we got to stop acting as if everything is normal. We got to fight this every step of the way. They cannot have our votes unless we get certain guarantees around a host of other things. He is dispatching the National Guard and secret police into our cities. He is not following the law. He's attempting to fire the Federal Reserve Chair. He is brazen, and he is counting on our conciliation. Now, the argument against that is, well, if we shut down the government, he's just going to do what he wants anyway, right? He's just going to do what he wants anyway. And then you think, well, hold on a second. Your argument for why we need to, you're basically saying that Trump's abuse of power over here in the illegal realm gives him more power in the institutional legal realm, right? Because you're afraid of his lawlessness over here, he has more power to put pressure on us when we're legislating. Well, that's given up the game. So of course you have to fight. But then you think, well, what happens if you fight? Democrats are now partially responsible for a government shutdown. Now, all of a sudden, instead of the country disapproving Trump's management of the economy, disapproving what Trump's doing on immigration, disapproving what he's doing by distributing National Guard into our cities for a manufactured crime wave, they're focused on us. That's bad politics. Now, my instinct as a combative person terrified about what our country could be is I'm with Murphy. You don't give an inch, you fight every day. But there are going to be people that disagree. And it's probably going to be some of the more moderate and cringy people, right, that are ultimately going to relent. I come down on the side of Murphy on that, probably. There are people that are going to disagree. But I don't know for sure, right?
Well, that's what I was going to say.
I don't know. And so I think part of what this moment has to be about is just being honest. I don't know. Here's what I think. Here's what I'm feeling in response to it. Here's what I'm concerned about. Here's where I ultimately land, but I'm not sure. And so let's just be honest about the uncertainty while being critical of the people that are doing what we don't think is right, but talking about what their motivations might be and seeing it from their side. That to me is what it means to be generous with their allies. It's not avoiding being honest about their flaws or not making fun of them when they give terrible, boring speeches that sound like they were written by a pollster, right? I don't think those things are incompatible. That's
an interesting thing about your level of experience is that it's all so complex. And whenever people talk about the deep state or the Illuminati or whatever, I kind of think about the weekend I met you and meeting a bunch of government people that I never met before and, finance, whatever. And everybody just seemed tired, overworked, stressed out, on duty, and not in a way that was on duty for their own glory or power or influence, just fuck. Like working in a hospital. It's kind of what it seemed like. So I am sympathetic to your position. I guess I'm just wondering where you fall on how honest can I be? Because you don't want to primary everybody.
Yeah.
You can't primary everybody. And is there a tough love version of you guys? Would that even be, is that anything?
Well, I would say probably a lot of the politicians that we both find kind of not right for this moment would be surprised to find out they're getting any kind of love, whether it's tough or not from us. I think what does all of this ultimately boil down to? If we're going to talk about an issue and we feel like the Democrats have been really fucking it up, we're going to have that conversation, but we're going to button it up. We're going to make sure, right? We're going to do we're not just going to go half cocked. If we're coming after people that we ultimately want to help win, right? Let's make sure we get it. Let's do the work, right? Let's be specific. Let's understand the issue. Let's know where they're coming from, right? Because let's start from a place where they have better motivations, which is all we're doing. Just start from a place of assuming that they have better motivations than their opponents, which I believe, right? It's a lot easier to go after Republicans who have sold their soul to get behind Trump because I don't trust them. I don't trust their motivation.
Right.
And there's a pattern, right? So you can understand where you're coming at that. You still have to do the work. You still have to understand what's going on. But when you're going after somebody that is maybe letting you down but is on your side, I think that requires what generosity to your allies requires is just doing a bit more to make sure you understand where they're coming from, so that when you are critical, you feel more confident in what you're saying and you're doing it with respect for people that ultimately are part of a movement. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, and I'm also contradicting myself because I am saying, like, you need to be honest, but at the same time, you need to kind of take these half a loaf people. You know what I mean? Like, I see the contradiction of what I'm saying, and it speaks to the complexity of the whole thing.
Nobody knows what to do right now. Like, what is happening is unprecedented.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yep.
And it's hard and it's confusing. We've never had a Trump-like figure illegally dismantling parts of the government, co-opting the Republican Party as the media collapses and people get all their information through tech-generated algorithmic feeds that confirm their worst prejudices and biases. We've never lived in that world before.
Yeah.
How do we get out of it? I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And it's hard. And that requires, I think, having a little humility with people that share that same concern.
I want to go back to something we were talking about, which is the amount of pushing people forward and accepting people's limitations.
Yeah.
Trans issues being a good one, historically black issues being a clearer one because it's like sort of historic.
Yeah.
Where do you fall on it? Because there is you've got definitely are invested now. And how much is like, do you go, these people aren't ready? And do we need to like make them ready? Do we need to force them to be ready? Because I feel that way. And you can let me make the question even bigger. Trump's lost once and won twice, and he lost to a guy and beat two women. So what I'm saying is like, there's part of me is like, can women win a general election? I'm sure you thought it. It's a dark thought. It's gross. It's et cetera, et cetera. Can Wesley, the guy from Maryland, is Westmore, is he as viable a black candidate as Barack Obama? Is there, it's like kind of judging progress, the progress wheel versus like the art of the possible, right? Where do you fall on it? And I'm sure it's complex. And by your initial exhale, I know you've got an answer.
So let's just take the first part, which is when do you push people? When do you trust their limits? I think you have to separate what people's opinions and what they care about. And those are different things. When you call somebody up on the phone or text them or have a focus group and ask them, what do they think? They're going to have a range of views. And maybe you end up with a majority that thinks trans people should serve in the military, but only a minority that thinks trans teens should transition, for example. That might be what you get out of some polling. And so that might lead a Democrat to say, I must embrace trans people being able to serve in the military, but say I have questions about whether or not trans teens should be able to transition. But then you ask that same group of people you just focus group, what are your biggest issues? And actually, it's like, I can't afford groceries and my house is expensive and healthcare is unreliable. And then you think, well, hold on a second. What if there was a politician that was so motivated by healthcare and affordability and the need to build housing that it was in every fiber of their being why they were invested? And someone came to learn that about them. And then that politician went to that person and said, I'm going to make sure your healthcare is cheaper. I'm going to fight every day to build more housing. I'm going to go through walls for you. We disagree on this trans thing. I think trans teens deserve this care. Maybe you don't get that right now, but I'm going to win you over. But don't worry about that because that's not my focus. This is what I'm focused on, the thing that you care about. All of a sudden, that person has so much more purchase on these other issues. So it's not about where do you push.
Can you think of anyone who's ever done that?
Well, Bernie Sanders can do that, right? AOC can do that.
Has anyone ever said... I mean, Obama literally said, like, gay marriage.
I believe that marriage is the union between a man and a woman.
I'm not. It's seen as whatever his mealy-mouthed answer.
But I do believe in civil unions.
He can get away with it, as discussed. But what I'm wondering is, like, I agree with you, but I can't think of anyone that does, like, it's not really my biggest concern. I don't think it's most people's biggest concern. I'm going to be the biggest concerns person.
Well, I think there are politicians who try versions of that all the time. Like, that's not what I'm focused on. I'm focused on this. And like sometimes that seems evasive. right? But whatever the specific language is, I'm talking about a person who is building trust with people on the things they care about most, so that however those other issues come up, whether they come up, when they do, they can either say, I disagree, or they can say, like, that's a distraction, if that's what they want to say, or they can try to persuade, right? And say, like, you know what? I hope you'll listen to me on this, because I hope I've built trust on this other thing that you care about. Not just in what I've said, but by the way, delivering, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's part of the problem, right? People don't trust Democrats to deliver. And, we can debate whether or not that's fair, that Joe Biden did a lot of really important things to kind of prove that government could deliver, and he didn't get credit for it. It's a lot of issues in the way this stuff is translated to people.
Couldn't speak publicly.
Couldn't speak publicly. Huge problem.
Yep.
Not having a president who could form a sentence.
Look, if we finally beat Medicare,
paid a pretty heavy price for it.
We'll see.
But to me, that to me is what pushing and pulling is about, right? It's not about like, do you give here, do you not give here? It's like, how do you build credibility where you agree, so that when the time comes, people are willing to trust you on something else. Now, I feel like it was a big mistake after 2016 when a lot of people just said sexism, racism, right? Not just because it put off the hard questions about why Democrats were failing to persuade people, but also because it sends a terrible signal about whether our country will elect a woman to be president. Like, look, 2024 was an incredibly specific election, unlike any we've ever run before. We had a deeply unpopular administration that people held responsible for inflation, helmed by a person who was inarticulate by the end, that the country believed was too old, who had been defended by a party that made people feel as though they couldn't be trusted, in part because it was telling everybody that Joe Biden was up for the job when they saw with their own eyes he no longer was.
Yes.
Kamala represented that administration. And
Correct.
She was enough change to mean we didn't lose 40 Senate seats. She made up a lot of ground that Joe Biden lost, right? But she still carried that baggage. And she was unable, I think, to successfully explain how she would have been different, in part by being, when she's asked the question, she did not have a good answer. Now, that is one question and one answer. And Donald Trump fucks up 40 times a day and still manages to win. And so there's something deeper here about why this was close in the first place and why our country doesn't trust Democrats when it talks about the threat Trump poses or what we claim we're for, right? That's a bigger problem. But I do think to then draw the conclusion that, well, a man beat him, 2 women lost. That tells us more than I'm not saying you're saying that, but I don't believe we know that.
Yeah, no, but I'd like to reiterate, I voted for them all. But what I'm saying is, because I don't even think anyone's going to paint me with a brush, but I'm saying, what if it's not people's priority to have a female president? Do you know what I mean? But in the explanation of that is like, well, then you're a bigot. No, I'm not. I don't. It's not. It's the joke I did on my last one. I'm not a bigot. I'm busy. I don't. But it's not important to me.
But you know what? Kamala Harris didn't make her being a woman, didn't make identity central to any of what she was doing. It came, of
this
course.
time, yeah.
Well, in 2016,
they still had tape. They still had 4K tape, so it seemed like she just said it.
Fine, but like,
it wasn't tape.
But I'm saying, as a candidate, she wasn't saying like, we must elect the first female president. In fact, they very carefully avoided doing anything like that. They put identity aside and made it much more about the threat to democracy and the economy. Like, it's not like people felt like, why would I vote for her? Having a female president isn't the most important thing. Nobody made that the most important thing. So like, that's not.
But I think the thing that you said about sexism and not even being able to say like, she wasn't a great candidate
in 2016 or Kamala.
Either one, anyone. Joe Biden won great. I mean, none of them been great since your friend. But it's, at least you're allowed to say Biden is a mummy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you couldn't say anything disparaging about Hillary because it seemed coded in misogyny, et cetera, which I just think is a bad thing. It's a bad position to put people in, because you can't have a real conversation and you can't,
but then it's like, but what are you talking about? You're talking about online criticism, right? Is what you're saying? You're talking about?
But I'm talking about the general tenor of the argument.
But
that you can't be like, I don't know, she's just not that. She don't got it.
Right. I where couldn't you say? I mean, like, of course people could say that. I mean, part of it going once Joe Biden not only held on too long, not only fails that debate, but also doesn't drop out for several weeks after, right? The idea of having a convention, open convention, a real process is eliminated. She's the person.
Yeah.
And so, no, at that point.
Did you like that? Do you think that was good? Not that it was her, that it resulted in her,
I will
but
say
like
that
they should have done maybe a primary.
To your point, when we talked about an open process, there were definitely people online that were like, because you don't want a black woman to have the job. Right. Like, absolutely. Yeah. Totally, absolutely part of it.
Which, like it or not, seeps in. We can say, like, it's online, but it seeps into your spirit.
I think the way online is real, like we say, online is not real life. Like, it has become much more real life. It matters. I totally agree. And like, that was very frustrating to be like, no, if Kamala is a strong candidate, and I believe she is, then she will be a stronger candidate for having won that process. She starts out with an advantage. Don't you want Kamala to come out of an open process, having not just been given something, but taken something? Yeah. Doesn't that make her politics stronger? Doesn't that give us an opportunity as Democrats to put her campaign on its feet and have a debate that allows her to be stronger when she heads into the general? Like, there are very good reasons for having that process, in part because when and if she became the candidate, she'd have been better for it. But, and there was also other people saying there shouldn't be an open process, not because it was to prevent a black woman from having the job, but because, hey, this will be damaging. We got to get moving. We need a candidate right now. But it was all rendered moot by Joe Biden, who took that possibility away from us. And so once she is the candidate, no, there's no more. We got to help her. We got to do everything we can to help her win. If there's criticism that's productive, great. But like, this is an emergency. Yep. We are put in this position. Everybody should be moving in the same direction, for sure. That's how I felt about it.
I'm with you. It's just an interesting thing where at first I said that you couldn't really criticize them, and your instinct is to say, no, what are you talking about? And then you admit, yeah, it was harder to criticize them.
Well, I'm admitting
just think
that
it's a bad...
before she was the candidate, I'm admitting that there's some truth to what you're saying.
No, and I'm not saying it was in good faith that you're saying it, but it is the truth. And what I think I'm interested in the tension that you live in overall. The tension you live in between helping the party and being dead honest. And because that's the knock on the New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, is that they're all in the bag for these various interests. And I don't know what I would suggest is the other thing.
You know, I've been watching Vanderpump Rules, and
of course,
which is fantastic. And so often there are these just sort of rhythms to these shows, and one of them is somebody gets drunk and says to somebody like, you know, you look pregnant, you're so fat, you're so ugly, God, you wear that dress terribly. And then they're like at some point they'll say like, what? I'm just being honest, right? I'm just being honest. Yeah. And okay, like, you think that
is technically you're being incredibly hostile. Yeah,
right. And I think like there are people who view that kind of honesty in politics as like a badge of honor, like a proof of their bona fides, a proof of their integrity, right? Like just ready to jump on Democrats at every turn to show how much of a truth teller they are. And you're right, like, you're not saying things that I don't agree with, or they're mean, but like, I see where you're coming from. Like, that was cringe. That was a bad speech. This is embarrassing. They should be, you know, of course. But like, you gotta be productive. And respond. And you know what? Sometimes being a responsible adult and being productive means you don't just spout off even when somebody's annoying you, because you got to work with them and you got to figure out the best way forward. That doesn't mean you don't do hard criticism. Doesn't mean you're not honest. That doesn't mean you don't find your times to make sure that you're moving things in the right direction. But being responsible adults, being collaborative, being part of a big fractious collection of people is building relationships. And in life, in politics, in a dorm, wherever, that means sometimes you tell people, sometimes you focus on what's important and you let some things slide, not because you're being dishonest, but because you're trying to be productive. And you can't spend every day talking about every single thing that annoys you. It's stupid. It's a waste of time. And I think that like that's what it means to be a person in a political movement, in a community. That's what it is to be in a community.
Yeah, and you don't want to be a flamethrower a grenade tosser it's just not. It's interesting because it follows from your personality, or most human personalities, which is like, I want to be not even like in the winner's circle. I just want to be in this society, and you don't want to live in the woods and have to but I'm honest all the time. And it's, where it's gotten me? In the treehouse.
Right.
That's the only, because people, I'm so kind of reviled or.
And by the way, and your criticism carries no fucking weight because all you do is criticize. Because you don't view yourself on the inside with a bunch of people trying to do something together. You view yourself as an outsider. And by the way, that's a great role for a journalist. That's a great role for somebody on the outside. If that's what they view as their job and mission, is to be completely outside and critical and like as an observer. Like I respect that. I respect it. It's just not what I view as like for me, I don't, it's not about being inside. It's like, how do we hey everybody.
Yeah. What's the best way?
We gotta win. Yeah. It's an emergency.
Yeah. Going way back when you were with Ronan, he's doing all this, investigative stuff.
Yeah. Was
it scary for you and you guys? Like, I was always a little bit like, so are you not worried? Not like you didn't seem worried, but I'm just saying, like, what was it? What was it like is my question.
I remember like before the story started, there's a big difference between before the stories start coming out and after, because he kept reporting and kept going.
If you don't know, he was big Harvey Weinstein whistleblower.
He did the Les Moonves reporting, a lot of reporting during the Me Too kind of period,
and then the
beyond.
The Israeli military,
and the way that like these like sort of intelligence companies would spy on people Pegasus, and work for powerful people. I remember before there was both the feeling like you were kind of suddenly bringing the evil eye. Right, like he was bringing the evil eye on himself and people around him, and then also a lot of internal pressure when he was at NBC to not run the story, to not pursue the story. And then for him, it started becoming like, well, like, do I like? It started to feel like, oh, I'm damaging my relationships here at this network to keep going, but it does feel important. Is it like before? Like,
it's similar to what we were just talking about, which is like the balance of like pushing and
right. Like, is it like and I remember just sort of us talking about like, no, this story is really important. And whether it runs here, runs elsewhere, like it's gonna matter. Like it's a big deal. And like anyone trying to convince you it's not because they're afraid is wrong, right? Like you're being told to drop it internally. And part of that argument is like, it's not worth it. It is. And like, trust that. You're right. It is worth it. Then there's this outside pressure, both before and after this. Once the story's run, people understand that this is a big deal, right? Like, but then I remember like there was, we found out that he was being tailed and I was being tailed by some private security or investigative group. And
I'm picturing you like on a recumbent bicycle.
Well, what's so funny about this is I don't remember, this is now years ago and I don't want to get the details wrong because the details matter. But the gist of it is that the person trailing me called in and was like, this guy is so fucking boring. Please, gotta stop following him. And I like the idea that I like defeated an Israeli intelligence.
With the edibles.
With just like, I went to an escape room. That wasn't, it's like, so I didn't do it. Like I was so boring that it didn't matter. But like, there were all kinds of things. Like his phone was absolutely hacked. Like there was strange threatening like posts and like blackmail. Like there's like a lot of stuff like that. And it was nerve-wracking, but part of it also is you're just sort of, I don't know. It was never like, boy, this is scary. It was just sort of, he was doing his thing. You don't even think about it. You don't consider it. You just sort of you almost like it's not that you don't take it seriously, but like you can't imagine it being, how can this be?
What are they going to do?
What do they do? Like how real is this? How scary is this? But it was, I think for him at the time, and I want to speak for him, but like it really was shaking, right? You're doing this thing and all of a sudden you feel like you're like, I don't remember. I don't know. I shouldn't speak about the specifics because I don't know what he's talked about or not. But all of a sudden realizing like, no, you weren't crazy. Like there really were people. Like there really were people following you.
Yeah.
There really were people trying to get into your phone. There really were people trying to threaten you. Like that was real. That wasn't just paranoia during this like exhausting reporting period. Like it was real. It was genuinely happening.
Yeah. And from the inside out, you're just kind of like,
I remember when Ronan got his show on MSNBC, there were people that were like, oh, he got it because of his family. And I think like for anyone that has like come from, has maybe famous parents, whatever, like, you know, there are always those like the Nepo baby stuff.
Yep.
And that was, and for him specifically, like he had such a hard time of it as a kid. There was so much turmoil because of what happened with Woody Allen. Like it was so hard, and he was getting tagged at having all these privileges. And what people couldn't see and what I could see is that he was the hardest working person I have ever seen in my life. To this day, there is no one that I have ever seen work as relentlessly on something as Ronan did. Ronan was on his own competing against, I don't know how many reporters at the New York Times. I mean, he had a lot of support at the New Yorker, but he, first of all, NBC fucked him and lied about it and just like was just gross. He starts with that disadvantage. He takes the story to the New Yorker, which the New Yorker understood very quickly was serious and real to much of the claims, despite the claims that some at NBC had made at that time. He still runs with the story. He still manages to keep up with the New York Times and all of its power and all the people that are working on it. And that is because he was relentless. And I remember we went for a dinner, maybe it was my birthday or some special occasion, to a really fancy place. And he just fell asleep leaning against the wall at a restaurant, just passed out because he wanted to do the birthday dinner, but he had been working he could just work like a night in a row, 2 nights in a row, just relentless. And like, that's where that relentlessness meant that like, there wasn't time for him. He didn't take a moment to think about what was happening around the report. He was just like doing it and wanted to get the story. And like, when he focuses on something like that, like that's where it came from. Just a kind of, like, he's a brilliant person, but my God, like it was like an intimidating work ethic. Like you would be shocked.
Yeah.
You couldn't conceive of a person sitting at a laptop for the length of time he could sit at a laptop and roll calls and do what he has to do.
Did it make you work harder in your own life?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, what about, because you mentioned it earlier, like working hard at the relationship, and what's that look like? Like, we need to talk more, we need to spend more time together, how do you aim, what's the laser beam at a relationship?
I'm not gonna, I will, okay, I know. I'm gonna answer. I'm just saying, like, I'm not gonna get into the specifics of it, but I think you like we love each other. We have all these good parts of the relationship. We must be able to make it work.
Right.
Simply must.
Yeah.
What couldn't we make work? We'll put all of our energy to it.
Yeah.
We'll put the same relentless energy towards this. It must work. And at a certain point, just be like, you know what? Like, unlike how you would handle anything in your professional life, what if we gave up? What if we just gave up? You know, that's okay.
Yeah.
And it's
or
hard.
like a joke or a show where you're just like, I don't think this is I can keep working this show or joke or whatever. It's a dud.
Yeah.
And some are very good duds.
And by the way, like with hindsight too, let's, you know, part of what happens when a relationship isn't working is like, you're not showing up as your best either. You know, you're just you. And I'm not, and like I was not showing up as my best self anymore. And it's like, that's a hard thing to face, right? That like, hey, like, I don't know that I'm not.
How come? Out of frustration? Or being worn down?
I don't know. I just sort of, I don't know, patterns, you patterns, and you're unhappy. And when when people are unhappy, like, you know, depression is like kind of outside of relationships. Like, depression makes you a worse hang.
Yeah.
You know, it does.
Yeah.
And it makes you not want to spend time with people, right? It's not sadness, it's something else. And so I think that's true in a lot of dynamics. Like, when something's not working, you suddenly make it worse. You know, you just can't help but make it worse in some way, whatever that may be. And so I don't know. It was hard because we were together for 11 years, and like it was hard to let go of that, in part because I did care about him, do care about him, and but that's okay. That's life. And like, I want him to be so happy, and I hope he is.
We'll never know. Anything that we missed that we should have talked about?
Well, one of the hard things with the relationship was like, he's covering Me Too. I'm going to Epstein's Island all the time. And so that was a divide.
Yeah. And you have to say like, are we cool on this?
Yeah. Like, it's like, just like, you can't cover this.
We're
just such two different worlds.
You were going to Epstein's Island just to network, right?
Yeah. I mean, my God, like just the connections,
Talk about a convention.
The connections. Yeah.
Guys, it's Crooked Con, November 7th. Washington, D.C. I don't know who's talking. I don't know what kind of merch they're doing. I don't know what sort of venues. I don't know what sort of laminates.
Do me a favor. So yeah, come to Crooked Con. We're gonna have we haven't announced the guest yet, but a shocking number of people have agreed to come. But if you're listening to this, do me a favor and follow Pod Save America on our YouTube, follow our shows on YouTube, because the truth is like we are trying to build something that is welcoming to everybody and that can compete with a lot of the noise on the right, and just to be an alternative to right-wing media and some of the like kind of anti-woke media out there, just to have another point of view. So check it out. See if you like it, great. If not, it's free.
That's what I say. I like you.
You like me.
I've always liked you.
I've always liked you.
We're going to shake on it.
My hand's clammy. Clammy.
Mine is too, but whatever.
Oh, then let's do it.
Pretty even.
Yeah. I didn't feel not a problem.
Similar shiny faces as well. If you're not.
I had to pretend that this giant screen with my face on it wasn't here, just to have a conversation. I had to just ignore it. That was intense.
You did great.
All right, great.
Jon Lovett, everybody. Do what he says.